Let's change this into this. Welcome back to another episode of Stealing Parts from Evos. In the last episode, we squared away our brake upgrade with a set of freshly rebuilt and coated Evo 8 Brembos. They came a long way from where they were, and it's nice to see them roadworthy again, looking better than ever. Today we need to talk about wheels. Now that we have this larger brake upgrade underway, the factory wheels from Mitsubishi will no longer clear the larger multi-piston calipers, at least not in the front. These 17-inch wheels that came on the GT and GTS trim models have minimal caliper clearance, with their high offset and flat spoke design. So these will essentially be rendered useless for transition wheels post-brake upgrade. So we'll move on to something else to replace them. The current 19s have also been sold, but they won't really be missed. They were cheap, lower quality replicas that got me through the early stages of learning about fitment many years ago, and I'm ready to move on to better things. So these are being removed for the last time, never to be seen again. They were my first set of wheels I bought back in the day, so besides nostalgia, I'm not stressed. It's only up from here, really. Off to their new owner, who will hopefully enjoy the remainder of these Nittos with a good amount of tread left to go. Off camera, we had a bit of an unfortunate mishap with our spline tool for the lug nuts, which actually is a specific 7-spline socket. It ended up splitting in 3 places when I got started. Fortunately, I have a second tool, so it's not much of an issue, but it definitely rounded off the lug nut and nearly damaged the wheel. At least we're not stuck here. It's important to run not just quality components, but use quality hardware and tools to not run into issues such as this. Another reason we're moving on. In light of restoring before modifying and fixing and replacing what we can, I decided to go the OEM Plus route and replace our no longer fitting stocks with Evo 8 factory Enkeis. So we are essentially trading stock wheels for better stock wheels, while still technically remaining exclusively Mitsubishi. That way, once my custom 3-piece wheels are built, we have a solid set of factory wheels to fall back on for service, paint prep, or emergencies. These quality, lightweight, and simple wheels are perfect for brake caliper clearance, since they were literally made with the brakes we've installed in mind. Now to find a set. They're out there if you look for them. I actually saw a flawless set on an Evo at a local meet at the lab. Heading back in time just a little bit, lucky for me, a cheap damaged set ready for a restoration popped up on Marketplace in New York, the same time I was headed out to the big city for a video shoot on an STI. I knew I needed to get out there early so I can really make the trip count. I made him an offer, and before I knew it, I was off to the shoot with the wheels in tow. I made it right in time to keep the shoot on schedule and get some clean shots during golden hour. The city skyline looked unreal. Alright, mission accomplished, I'd say. Now back home, we can begin the restoration process. Besides the 20 years of age, these wheels faced quite a lot of track time before retiring to the floor of the seller's race shop. 2 of the barrels have cracks that can be fully repaired, and I have a trusted source locally to refurbish them. The finish is eroding away, with corrosion and pitting on the hub surfaces. The center caps have seen better days and will surely crack more or disintegrate completely upon removal. All of that, of course, with your average curb rash. First, we need to get these stripped of these old dry rotted tires. An old friend of mine offered to give me a hand with them at one of my old shops, and I took him up on it. I grabbed some coffee, threw on some old work garb, and I got there early to get this started. Like I said, this was some time ago now, back when I still had my legacy and the earth actually got snow. I cleared some of the bulk of the surface corrosion, but didn't spend too much time since they'll be sandblasted anyway. With the out-of-date tires dismounted and tossed to be recycled, we can send them off for repair, media blasting, and powder coat, while we wait for our new factory center caps, decals, and lug nuts to come. One final look before things start to head in the right direction. Boom, freshly recoated and ready for their decals to be replaced. Carefully cut them into individual strips and prep the surface with a little isopropyl alcohol and a microfiber towel so we get a strong bond and minimize debris getting caught underneath. I positioned them using a caliper to get a consistent distance from the leading edge, so they would all appear symmetrical and consistent. With that distance carefully marked with a piece of painter's tape, we should be visually perfect. Once placed down, I press the air out with a squeegee wrapped in the same towel to get the remainder of the bubbles freed. Try to peel off the backing at a 45-degree angle to minimize risk of it pulling back up. Looking good. With the wheels like new again, now we need some rubber to put on the road. Some Conti Extreme Contacts will be a perfect candidate for a high-performance but generic all-season to properly suit these stock wheels and give some confidence regardless of what circumstance we find ourselves in. I'll just install a new rubber valve stem. We don't need anything too fancy for these. When mounting tires on new or freshly coated wheels, whether they be rare, expensive, or otherwise, it's best to protect the rim flange of the wheel where the tire makes contact and the machine head mates with it. Even though damage is unlikely, especially on touchless machines, this gives you peace of mind while preventing minor tire scuffs and scratches. Definitely a wise choice, especially when you aren't mounting your own like I am here. This is a high-temp polyester masking tape, the same kind used for masking during the powder coating process. It's slick to allow tires to mount easily when lubed normally, and peels off leaving no residue with its silicone adhesive. It's satisfying to peel off just like a new screen, especially revealing a wheel that's just as fresh as it was before mounting tires. Now with the air pressure set to the right level, these just need to be balanced before we can throw in the center caps and call it a day. Instead of the clip weights used originally, I'll be using gray tape weights for a more discreet look. Might as well after they have been redone and we have the choice. For those, I was able to source a new set of factory original ones, which is actually an 8-piece assortment, because the caps consist of both the center caps themselves, as well as a locking ring to fix them in place. It feels a little old school and overcomplicated, but honestly it makes enough sense. As for the lug nuts, from the factory they are of the shank lug type, much like you'll find on Toyota Lexus models. For those unfamiliar, this type has a protrusion on the bottom that goes through the same bore on the wheel, which has a flat opening for a seat instead of the typical ball or cone seat. This perfectly centers the wheel in the hub before torque is even applied, and also allows for smoother application of that torque with the attached washer. This allows the lug nut to rotate freely as it's snugged down, preventing it from binding against the wheel, affecting that torque value. Long story short, they are more complicated than they need to be, but they do a great job at it. With the new caps out of the packaging, we can see that the OE finish matches well with the new powder coat. The way these work is simple enough. The cap portion just drops in, and the lock ring does the hard work by laying to rest in the groove of the wheel. This can be done best with a pair of needle nose pliers or hose clamp pliers. Just drop it in and snap. Of course, making sure the ring fell all the way into the groove so it doesn't become a projectile. Yes, I rocketed them across the shop a couple times. And with that, these wheels are all good to go. Let's get them outside into the light before the sun goes down and see how far we've come. My powder coater had 2 options for silver on hand and ready to go. There was a Porsche silver and this one, named Alien Silver. This one had a stronger, better looking flake without losing too much of that OE look, so I opted for it. I'm happy with how they came out, and they matched the factory center caps just fine. Next up, we need to talk about suspension, fitment, and what it's going to take to get things to go according to plan. But one step at a time. Trust the process. Thanks for following along. I'll see you in the next video.